nobody's found us online, so we're all good.
No online people.
How is it to be back in Denver?
Really surprisingly delightful.
Great.
Yeah, and really beautiful, and just a relationship that's been building with my dad, which was very unexpected. It's been a lot of
Cool.
unexpected things.
Wonderful.
It's really nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Lucky, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I keep in pretty close touch with Sergio, so
Yeah.
it was nice to. And I got some pictures the other day of some workshop or retreat that he was running and some other things. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's never really spectacular.
Yeah. When was the last time you saw him?
Oh, when I was in Action last, which was beginning of June.
Oh, just very
Yeah,
recently.
very recently.
He's
And I'll be
okay?
back in August as well.
He's okay? Everything's okay?
Yeah. He's enjoying his summer
Yeah,
vibes.
his swimming in rivers and stuff.
Yeah,
Summer.
he's-
It's nice. Yeah.
I'm sure he's in his like beautiful nut brown tan right now.
Yeah, he gets a nice dark color. Yeah. His half Colombian self. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just a sun worshiper too. So.
Yeah, he really is. He loves that outdoor summer, Oregon, California deal. So, yeah, I was trying to think when I saw him last. It's been a little while.
Yeah. Do you know JP? No. Okay.
Don't know.
No, I was just asking because he's in the Buddhist community as well, and I think he's done surgery for like, a long time, like a
Okay.
teenager.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
longer than me.
Yeah.
I met Sergio, I was trying to think, maybe it was 1998.
Okay.
Yeah, we were both trying to get a discount on a Buddhist retreat down in Pagosa here. And we wound up, I volunteered, you have to do some work, so I said, I'll do whatever. And turned out that both he and I said the same thing. I was thinking, I'm going to clean toilets, I'm going to do cooking, I don't know what I'm going to do. But we got to be Dzogchen Rinpoche's attendant, which was kind of cool. So, yeah, so I knew him from before, but it was very nice. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we've stayed in touch ever since. So. Good to meet you. Happy to have you here.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah.
And yeah, it's really nice. Cool. And these things come together. It's nice.
Yeah.
And hello to you guys online. And welcome back. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Yeah. Sorry, we were totally not here last week. So I was in the Southwest. Lydia and I went to Chaco Canyon and Canyon de Chelly and San Cawe, a whole bunch of places, and just couldn't put it together to do this. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's good that we realize how much we miss you.
Oh, be sweet.
You know, I came a long time, there was no class, it was like maybe months ago, I didn't check. And then right here, there's such big emptiness
She's
in
like,
my
oh.
I was like, oh.
Oh my gosh, no, we used to say, like, there's like a funny between partners, we just say, honey, I can't miss you if you don't leave.
Exactly. It's true. It's true. Anyway, welcome. I'm glad we get to be together. For those of you who are new online, and for you, it's kind of like not a real Buddhist group, but like for a Buddhist-inspired meditation practice and a community that, yeah, we've been here for must be almost 3 years now? And before that, we were at another studio. And, yeah, it's nice. So come as often as it suits you. If it suits your schedule, you're here. And same with you guys online. Yeah, we're going to do a little practice. We're going to talk about how to integrate it and think about our lives and figure out how to be on the path in the best possible way. So just come here, be here, wherever you happen to be, if you're online, and just settle into this moment without doing too much. From this state of just being present, allow a sense of good fortune, of being in the right place at the right time, being grateful for what we have to arise in your heart. We are very fortunate to be together. We might be doing something that we want to be doing, we might be doing something that we don't want to be doing. We get to do this. How fortunate. to be able to practice is very nice. So allow a sense of gratitude to arise in your heart. And right in the middle of that sense of like, wow, lucky me, think, I'm going to practice meditation not just for myself, but for all beings. This attitude, called bodhicitta in Sanskrit, is a crucial part of any spiritual path. Because as it's said in the Buddhist teachings, thinking about myself has brought all the pain in the world, while thinking about others brings only happiness. So we want to change our attitude around. We have to start with ourselves and have to consider that our effect on our own lives is not just our effect on our lives, it's our effect on everybody's life around us. People we know, people we don't know, people we have a real direct connection with, and people we don't even have a connection with. We have a kind of a field that we operate in, and we want to do the actions that we have to do and those we choose to do for the good of everyone. So again, give rise to this thought, I am going to practice meditation tonight, not just for myself, but for all beings. A couple different things, ways of transmission, which I'm sure you're familiar with, everybody here knows. There's like the oral transmission of talking, there's like a symbolic transmission, like be open, this kind of thing, whatever. Everything's gonna be okay. That's like give it through transmission, through symbols. And then there's the mind-to-mind transmission. When one person is in the meditative state of openness, then it's easier to be in that state. So I invite you, whether you're online or whether you're here in person, to tune into that state of being right in this present moment, not holding this present moment like it might slip away, but being totally present and completely relaxed, just right now. This style of meditation is called being whole, being complete. All our little problems in our world have to do with thinking, oh, I want that, or I don't want this, and then either trying to get rid of stuff or trying to get something. Just like you said, you came, I don't know, a couple months ago and it was closed down and you had like a meditation group shaped hole in your heart that didn't get filled. You're like, oh,
I want it.
kind of beautiful, exactly. Kind of beautiful in that particular context, but when we do everything in our lives that way, it can be very difficult. So when we're meditating, what we're really doing is just being right in this present moment and then letting go of that kind of holding, grabbing, looking, trying to fill this emptiness we feel in ourselves sometimes. And at the same time, we're not trying to get rid of anything. We're not accepting exactly, but just being totally present and letting be. When we give ourselves permission to do that, it feels extremely good. Right? It's very clear, it feels good in our bodies, good in our minds. Emotionally, it feels stable and nice. It's a nice feeling. And it doesn't have a lot of thought activity in it. It doesn't mean we have to get rid of thoughts. Some meditations, they're trying to like clear out the mind. Not necessary to do that. All we need to do is be totally present, completely open, just letting be. Whoever it is. Since we've been running around all day, I don't know about you guys, but I've been running around here and there, doing various activities. It's sometimes hard to settle down, but that energy just continues, right? It's still running in us. I think, oh, I gotta make sure I do that, and forgot that this was important, and tomorrow this is many things. So in order to allow that to be cleared away, just so we can be as present as possible, you can do a little yogic exercise. You might know this is very simple. It's called clearing out the threefold breath or this ninefold breath. So what you do is put your hands like this, and put your thumbs at the base of your ring finger, and close your hand. Not hard, just a little bit. Then your hands are on your knees with your arms straight. It's so simple. And then we just do what I do, real easy. Put your right arm out to the side. Bring it in and block off your right nostril. Breathe in all the way. Hold your breath, put your hand down. And your left arm's going to go up. Block off your left nostril. Breathe out. Keep it blocked in. Hold your breath, hand down. Right arm goes back out. Block off the right out. Hands are down. Breathe in. Breathe out and extend your fingers. We're going to do this a couple times. When you breathe out, don't do anything. Just be totally still. It takes a little bit of courage, but you can do it. When you expel your breath like that, all of your kind of thought activity and plans and all that stuff also goes out. And it just dissolves into space. You don't have to do anything. This can induce a state of just being completely clear and in this moment. And that state, of course, is the meditative state. This is different, and I'm sure you received all these teachings, but for those of you online who haven't, there's different types of meditation, right? Most types of meditation, holding one thing with your mind, like focusing on one thing and excluding everything else. It's called shamatha, one-pointed focus. We need that, but we already have that. It's a type of concentration. If you know how to read a book or drive a car, you know how to do this. This other type of meditation is more on the other side, called vipassana, or insight. Insight into who we really are. But sometimes that gets clouded over by too many thoughts, too many emotions, too many plans, and just this running activity of our minds. So in order to allow those clouds of thought activity to clear, we do this breathing out exercise. So we're going to do it a couple more times. And when you do it, when you extend your fingers, at the end you extend your fingers like this, hands on your knees. Don't do anything. Don't move. Don't try to meditate. Don't make a plan. Don't go anywhere. Also, don't split part of yourself off and try to look back. Am I doing it right? You have to have the courage just to let go. Try. Ready? Right hand. Left hand. Good. It's a state of being completely here and now. Not caught up in plans and activities or coulda, woulda, shoulda of the past or hope and fear about the future. Just this moment, totally easy, totally easy. We touch this state all the time, right? When you're swinging the golf club, Dan is a big golfer, you're not anywhere else, right? I mean, hopefully, if you are, then you're probably not playing that well, right? You're just right there. Just same with everything that we do. We come in and out of this state, but oftentimes, even though we're in it, we don't recognize it, so we can't allow it fully. Meditation is just about allowing that, becoming accustomed to that state of complete presence without any kind of plan, any kind of sorting things. The normal mind is always sorting things into piles. We got the pile of wanting. Not your mind. Just kidding. We got the pile of wanting, got the pile of not wanting, of wanting to get rid of, and then we got this gigantic pile of I don't care about that. It's not important to me. And this is how we have to live. Of course, you have to do that. Otherwise, you'd be didn't know what was going on. But if you only do that, there's no freedom in that. In order to have freedom, we have to come right to this moment. Recognize that the past, is that your friend? Good. The past is gone, and the future has not yet arisen. And in this moment, we have really two things we can do. We can try to hold on to this moment, or we can just have the courage to just let it go. It's not easy, and it's a little scary at first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. Welcome. Hi. Look, there's a seat for you already. Take your time. There's no hurry. There's no hurry at all, in fact. Welcome. Our normal way of being. I had this kind of interesting insight. Lydia and I, and my brother, who's visiting, he lives in Asia, he's visiting, he really loves Angkor Wat, the whole of the Cambodian temples, and we've been there many times. And he put into ChatGPT, he said, what is the American Angkor? What are the temples of America, like the historical Native American sort of sites in the Southwest? And it made a little list of places to go, and Lydia had been to many of them, so she curated that list, and we went down, and we went to a whole bunch of places, and it took about 5 days. That's why I wasn't here last week. And one of the places we went to was connected with Bandelier Natural Monument. Have you guys been there? Amazing, beautiful place with a lot of semi-human dug caves. It's just outside of Santa Fe. I'd never been there. I've been to Santa Fe tons of time. I even have land in Taos still. Never even heard of that place, so thanks. We went down there in Bandelier is a beautiful, super cool place, but there's a connected site. So if Bandelier is like this, there's another, if you look at the map, there's another site. It's probably about 3, 4, 5 miles away. It's its own little, I don't know if they call it a pueblo, but it's like a mesa that had, maybe 500 years ago, had a pretty thriving community for 200, 300, 400 years. And nobody seems to go there. We went there, there were only two other people there, and nobody. Of course, it was like 150 degrees. That didn't help. Probably doesn't help the tourism, but anyway, we went to that place called Sun Kawe, right? And I was struck by something. That area, and also in Bandelier, the ground is kind of soft. I think it must be volcanic. And if you took a stick even and just scratched on the ground, you could make a scratch in the ground that would get deeper and deeper. It's very soft, and so they've hollowed out little caves. It's an interesting area. As you walk along, you kind of circle like this up around the mesa. There are these paths that are about, people I guess were pretty little, like maybe 4 feet tall. The paths are like just maybe 1.5 feet wide, but they're like this deep. And I didn't know what it was, but we looked it up, and it's from people walking there for hundreds of years. Right? They're going from the fields probably down here to where they lived up there, or vice versa. And they wore these pathways. I mean, just with their bare feet or moccasins, whatever. It's not like they weren't probably trying to do it, but they're pretty deep. This deep in places, which is very interesting if you think about how many feet had to walk there to do that. It reminded me of how our minds are. You know, we need to go somewhere with our minds, whether it's, say you're driving to work or you're driving to the library, whatever. You find it when you're first in the town. You find a certain path, you go. But then the next time you follow that exact same path, you just keep doing that. You don't even consider, maybe I'll go this way this time. Once in a while, you do. That kind of pathway that operates in our tendency pathway is called karma. That's what karma is. It's tendencies, habits, mind habits, right? We did something, and maybe it worked well, maybe it only worked pretty well, but we get used to it, and then we just kept on doing that. And after a while, like if you saw a piece of wood with a saw, the saw goes right into the wood. If you're a Sankawe native Anasazi person, you keep going up to the pueblo the same way from the river, it starts to just cut this groove, even in stone. This is the way we are in our lives. And that is necessary for being alive in this world. If you had to, come up with a new way of doing things every single time you did something, it would be impossible, right? If you get up in the morning, if you're used to taking a shower, you're like not even fully conscious. Unfortunately, the robot us, the one that's not fully conscious, that can go to the shower and do the whole thing while you're still thinking about the meeting you have or whatever, that one's not really alive in the same way. Kind of like half asleep, just like we can be half asleep when we might make a cup of coffee in the morning or whatever. I felt completely asleep this morning. I could not wake up. I have this little hut in my backyard where I practice meditation. I got up, it was still dark, went outside, but I realized as I was pulling, I have this big canvas sheet I hung there because it gets so hot and it melts the electric candles. It's so hot, so I have to keep this sheet over there. And as I was putting the sheet, I realized I was not even awake. I had been awake for 15 minutes and I still was kind of like asleep. We really have to find a way to come out of this trance that we're in. Otherwise, there's no opportunity for growth in our lives. And so what meditation really is coming out of that trance. It's kind of like we've been swimming underwater, and once in a while we come above water and we're like, whoa, now that's a view. No matter how clear the water is, it's not as clear as it is in the air, right? But before we know it, we're back underwater and just swimming and not really even conscious of that change. I thought it was interesting walking along those paths and thinking people walked here hundreds of years and they went the same exact way. And after a while, you almost can't go another way, right? I mean, you can't even walk next to the path because of the way it is. And that's the same way. We think, I'm going to change my habits. But we can't even do it because we're so used to that. We get forced into it so easily. So when you do an exercise like this breath clearing, which is so simple, but it can be very profound, you kind of come out of that corridor of your mind and you have this totally open view. So let's do it again with that in mind, so we can sort of feel the difference, so to speak, It's not exactly awake and asleep, because we are awake even when we are operating in this robotic way, but there's not a lot of choice there. There's not a lot of possibility there. And then there's not a lot of fun in that. So let's try it again. Ready? It doesn't last very long because it takes a certain kind of energy, and we have such strong habits to fall back into this sense of being a thing. Right? When you first breathe out, there isn't the slightest idea of anything. There's just a state of complete openness. And we kind of remember who we really are, this sense of possibility that lives within us. But after a second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever, you come back and you settle back into who you are, and then you start to produce thoughts, and you start to produce likes and dislikes, and all that stuff happens. We don't need to try to prolong it necessarily, but we need to notice the difference between being, we call it like awake to this aspect of ourself that we might not normally remember, and being asleep to it, where we're just kind of like operating by habit. I remember Suzuki Roshi. He started the San Francisco Zen Center, Japanese Buddhist master. He wrote that super famous book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. He said, in the mind of a beginner, there are many options, but in the mind of an expert, very few. And we become kind of experts at our way of being. We think, I got this, and so we just do the same thing over and over. And as long as we keep doing that, there's no possibility there, and we become extremely bored. You know, we can become extremely, we lose that feeling of possibility. When we do an exercise like this, it tunes us back into that sense of potential. And that potential, that's very important to us as alive, living beings. Meditation is just about that. Different kinds of meditation. I don't know how familiar you are, but most meditation, I said just before you got here, is like picking an object, you're the subject, and focusing on that object. Then your mind wanders off and you bring it back, and your mind wanders off and you bring it back till you can really stay. It's called shamatha, one-pointed focus. This is more about discovering or becoming awake to this possibility, this undefinedness of us. Does that make sense? And that feels extremely good. That feels extremely free. It's a little scary sometimes, but, you know, being free is a little bit scary too. Right? It's about a little bit about being a beginner to our lives, where there are many possibilities. Not so much of an expert, where there are very few. We tend to live in a world of like horse with blinders, you know, and this kind of opens those blinders a little bit. Let's just practice it for a minute, just 1 minute. Sit in whatever posture is comfortable. Don't put yourself in a way that isn't comfortable. The only important thing is nose over navel, ears over shoulders over hips, to some degree, you know? Just don't want to sit too much like this. More or less straight up and down. I like my hands on my knees, but you can sit in any way you like. And in this style of meditation, we sit with our eyes open. The eyes are sort of the gates of wisdom. They're our most important sense. They also are directly related to being awake. You know, if you close your eyes, you know, what happens is the visual consciousness dissolves, and then you start to drift off into sleepy states, right? And since meditation is about becoming awake, then we meditate with our eyes open, not crazy open, but not too chilling, right? In the middle. We don't stare at something. We just let our eyes be in front of us somewhere. If you're feeling sleepy, up a little bit. If you're feeling like too energetic, a lot of thoughts, a little bit down. Otherwise, just more or less straight out. Just look at the space in front of you. We just sit here. Just sit for a minute or two. Just be totally present. Tune into this wakefulness that is right here with us. just stay in that state of openness. We can remember that or recognize that anytime. It isn't only about just sitting still, but it's more clear when you sit still in the beginning. And we tend to just slide right into our habitual patterns of thinking and stuff as soon as we do ordinary activities. But we can always come back to it. The thing about life is we tend to live like one step behind what's happening. Something will happen, and then we're kind of considering that, and then we're reacting to it, and we're thinking, do we like that, do we not like that, what is my, and we kind of take one step back, and as a result, we're completely at the mercy of what's going on. We have no volition, we don't have any freedom. So somehow we have to find a way of like pulling ourselves right into this present moment, where then anything can happen. You have that little bit, that sense of like when you, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, in elementary school especially, it was true. At the beginning of the summer, you'd wake up, and you would, maybe it's like a Tuesday, and you wake up and you're immediately thinking like, oh, school. And you realize, oh, no, it's summer. And the whole world's open. Am I going to go to the pool? Am I going to meet up with my friend? Is it your day to play tennis? Whatever, you have all these possibilities. And there's a sense of like, almost a thrill. That is still possible all the time for us. But we don't recognize it because we're so caught up in our habits and our stuff. We're not even really aware of what's going on. We don't even know that we're not aware. Right? We're kind of asleep. Which makes me think of something we were discussing the other day. We went on Monday to see this Odyssey movie, the new movie, The Odyssey. Have you guys seen it? You haven't seen it? You gotta see that. You like movies. I thought it was pretty good. My brother, he likes movies. He's here on vacation. He was like, we're going! And so we went, and my parents went. And it just opened like last week, I guess. So I hadn't read anything. I didn't know much. They did a good job. I've never read the Odyssey. I read the Iliad, but not the Odyssey. But you have a general sense of what's going on there. Very interesting. I'm not going to spoil anything, hopefully, for you by telling a few things about it. But so Ulysses, he's in the Trojan War, right? And he's gone for like 10 years in this war. They win the war. He gets back in his ship with his men to go back to Ithaca. He's like the chieftain or king of Ithaca. And on the way, all these adventures happen, kind of almost entirely negative. And he loses his way. And all of his crew dies, and he gets kind of stranded. I mean, in the original story, Calypso is a nymph, I think, so she's some sort of non-human goddess, and she puts him in a little bit of a trance. He's kind of injured. She feeds him these lotus leaves. They mix. This is in the movie. In the actual Odyssey, it's slightly different, but he's eating these lotus leaves, and he cannot remember what happened to him. He knows that he's supposed to be going somewhere. He's not sure exactly where. And he knows that his crew was with him before, but he cannot remember what happened to them. He's just in a kind of trance. It's kind of like our lives. We are kind of in that trance too. We're eating the lotus leaves of conceptual thought and habitual tendency and all these ideas that we've put into ourselves through being members of society. And as a result, we've kind of gone down in the water, and we're still operating more like almost in a dream. And he stays in there with her for like 8 years or something, like forever. And he doesn't know. He keeps saying like, how long have I been here? And she's like, a little while. It doesn't say like it's been 8 years. When he finds out, he's like, 8 years. Where's he trying to go? He's trying to go home, right? Meditation is about going home. But in order to go home, first we have to realize we're not home, right? And that's this sort of waking up to where we really are, the mindset that we bring into our lives every day, some of which is necessary. It's not about forgetting who you are or what your plans are or goals. Nothing about that. It's just about getting hold of the present somehow and coming into this present and realizing that a lot of what we think we are is not really true. Right? It's just ideas. It's just habits, just like the paths at Sankawe, right? They're not the only way to walk up there. They're just the way that I walked yesterday. And I got there, so it worked, right, in a sense. And so I just keep walking there, and pretty soon there's no other option. And that no other option stuff, it feels constricting on our hearts. We feel a little claustrophobic. And then, if we keep doing it, we feel like claustrophobia is actually the way that we feel to be alive, right? That's what it is to be alive. And what is that called in Buddhism? Suffering, right? The Buddha said, sarvam dukkam dukkam, everything is suffering, suffering. Well, why? Not because we're constantly being like attacked. It's not like that. It's that this constriction on our hearts from habitual tendencies and disturbing emotions, we get used to that, and then we feel like, God, there's no freedom here. And there isn't any freedom, right? Because we just walk in those same paths. And after a while, just like those paths I was talking about, were you here when I said about Sankawe? Right, they're deep paths. It's difficult to walk on the other side of them. You know, you can't like make another choice after a while. You have to really like come out of it.
Joe, can I ask you about
Anything.
more about beginner's mind?
Sure.
I just wonder, I'm curious what it looks like to practically apply this in life. And there's the context is like, one is like I remember being a child and trying to walk into my bedroom as though I hadn't seen it before.
Oh, that's cool.
It's just like so hard, right? But like
Almost impossible,
Yeah.
but pretty cool to do. Yeah.
and so also then now I know these relationship doulas that like help people end relationships, and the idea is that when they're in a relationship they talk about how it's not good to know each other because of course it's good because I know you take your coffee or like I know what you like,
Sure.
but then we tend to box people, right? And then if they wake up one day and they're just like, I feel like being feminine today, and we're like, no, that's not you.
Yeah, there's pressure. Yeah.
Right. So how do you like make that shift on a regular basis so I can see, like, be a tourist in my own town, right? Or like be a new person in my, or like a more of a blank, a beginner, a beginner mind.
Yeah. To have that beginner mind, how do we actually do that? It's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, to tell you the truth, if there is like an actual answer to that question. I've said this quote before, but I like it a lot, so I say it again. But in Walden, Thoreau says, we must awaken and keep ourselves awake, not through any artificial means, but through an infinite expectation of the dawn. And maybe that's the answer.
Okay, interesting.
It isn't that, because if you did have, say, a technique, right, you might use the technique we sometimes do, like the pointing exercise. In the beginning, that kind of works, and you guys don't know what that is maybe, so we can do that. But it does work, but it becomes a thing again. And then the tendency is, I had a big experience from doing that, or one of these exercises or experiments or whatever. Then you just think, I just need more of those. But those are just a way to realize that you were asleep, so to speak. We have to figure out something more subtle. We are very subtle beings. And part of it is regular practice, like a formal meditation practice, I think is necessary. If you don't have that, it's very, very difficult, no matter how many tricks you got up your sleeve. And part of it is what I think Thoreau must mean, an infinite expectation of the dawn. When he said that, what does that mean? You have to somehow inculcate into your life the sense of that there's more possibility there than I might be currently aware of. Because it isn't, I know exactly what you're talking about seeing something for the first time, like you said, as a child, or being a tourist in your own life. That is amazing, but that's actually not the goal. The goal is not to have no habits at all. It's not that. It's something much more subtle than that. I'm not saying you're wrong, and of course that's beautiful if we can do it, but it's in a sense it's just, go ahead.
It's extreme. It's because
it's so extreme it
practical.
can't be managed. It
Right.
can't, these experiences, these peak experiences or whatever, they occur. And when they do occur, you realize like, wow, life is very different than what I thought it was. And that lasts for some period. But because it's an experience, it's going to come to an end. Because anything that has a start has a finish.
Yeah.
Somehow we have to tune into that aspect of ourself which doesn't change. Because everything in the world is subject to impermanence. Anything made out of parts. And it can be real parts, like a car is made out of screws and vinyl and whatever. Or it can be sort of more subtle parts, like a relationship is. Or even more like, I don't know quite how to say it, but I'll come back to it in 1 second. If we have to make it, then it is guaranteed to end. So we somehow have to tune into a layer or a level in our lives, which you could say is either below that or above that. It doesn't really matter, whatever speaks to you. But there's an aspect of us which does not change. Because, the 4 traditional statements about this, all meeting ends in parting, all gathering ends in dispersion, all building ends in destruction, and all birth ends in death. This is true about everything, right? I like your outfit, but your outfit will be different tomorrow. So if I get too attached to that outfit, then I see you tomorrow on the street, I think, oh, she looked that was such a cool outfit, it's a different outfit. No, do you understand what I mean? Because it's made out of parts. But there's an aspect of us which is not made out of parts. And that thing, or whatever you want to call it, that facet of our being, which you could say is like the true nature of us, or is the sky-like awareness, or what did you say? Yeah, it could be consciousness, right. That is always unbounded. It's not bounded by this experience of like, wow, and it's also not bounded by the boredom of knowing how you take your coffee. Do you understand what I mean? It's not, it's not that your question isn't a good question. Of course it is, and we are trying to figure this out. It's, we're trying to do that, but the goal is not to produce continual peak experiences or continual Kensho experiences. First of all, it's not possible.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a fool's errand, and it can be very frustrating, and my experience of people who make this their kind of goal in their spiritual life is that they eventually leave the spiritual life. Because what works better is drugs.
Keep trying different drugs,
exactly.
right?
trying whatever. Whether it's actual drugs you take or like new weird permutations of relationships or continual travel. It's kind of like exhausting.
Yeah, this is a binge.
It is a binge. Binging is never good, right? Whether it's binging on alcohol or binging on Kenshos, it's something temporary. You know what I mean? We have to find that part of us or tune into that aspect of ourselves, however you want to put it, which is it does not change. And because that is, not only is that always fresh, but it's the only reliable thing. That's a good question. I like how you asked that question.
Thanks for your answer.
I don't know if it's an answer, it's just thoughts.
Yeah.
But the issue with us in our lives is leaning, right? We're always leaning on something. We're leaning on our relationship, we're leaning on our job, we're leaning on our ideas of ourselves as being a professional golfer or an artist or a gymnast or, someone who does yoga. So say I like to do yoga, and right now, in my current age and physical capacity, I can do it. But just, 3 months ago, I had to have a hernia repaired, and I couldn't do yoga. So, in a sense, I was like, not me, because I do yoga every day, and all of a sudden I couldn't do yoga. So I was, I am not, I'm not the same, or I'm not able to be relaxed or whatever, because I'm leaning on that. Excuse me. Anything we lean on is eventually going to change, because the world's not stable. So we have to somehow either figure out a thing that we can lean on that never changes, or stop leaning altogether, right? And those are tough things to do. It's very subtle. And when can it be done now? Only right this moment. Only right in this moment, right? We can't do it tomorrow, because tomorrow I've been trying to wake up for 56 years. I've been waking up and thinking, tomorrow I'm going to do this, and tomorrow I'm going to do that. And when I wake up, it's not tomorrow, it's today. And in fact, you guys haven't heard this probably, well, you haven't heard it from me. I am convinced that our entire life takes place only today. When we wake up in the morning, we come out of nowhere. Where are we before that? You know, sometimes you wake up out of a dream, but when you wake up on those occasions when you were not dreaming, there's a moment of complete like, you don't even know where you are for a brief second. Especially you notice this when you're traveling. Like when you go back home, you wake up and you don't know where you are. You don't even know who you are. That happens actually every single morning. But we jump over it because that's of course terrifying. Right? We come out of nowhere, and when we fall asleep at night, we go who knows where. Right? That's in our direct experience. If you're watching online, my hand comes out of nowhere, and when it disappears at the bottom of the screen, it goes where? So we really only have today. So the real, I think, not answer, but my answer, I guess, in my own life, to the question of how do we do that is we can only do it right now. This very moment. Because in Buddhism we talk about 3 times, right? We got past, we got present, and we got future. But all these things, these 3 times, the past is gone, right? Where is yesterday? Cannot find it. It really is completely gone. It only exists in memories. And if I say like, tell me about yesterday to you, and you, and you have all different yesterdays. So obviously it doesn't exist anywhere, right? Even for Lydia and I who live together, our yesterdays are not exactly the same. We had crossover periods where, remember we had tea at 4:32, we were drinking tea, or whatever, but even at that moment, I might have been drinking the tea and you weren't. Our pasts are different, and they're completely imaginary. They're only in memory. It's even worse with the future. Where are they keeping tomorrow?
It hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened. There is no, and we have no idea. We really have no idea, especially right now. This administration is giving us a strong sense that tomorrow may not exist, right? It's like, we don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. And that tomorrow doesn't exist only when we wake up. It actually exists even like 2 seconds from now. When you realize that, it can, at first, of course, it can be very threatening. Right? We get kind of stressed about it, but we have to be adults about it and recognize like it's always been that way. It's okay that there's no future and that the past is utterly and completely gone. There's only this present. But for most of us, I mean myself totally included, because of what's called co-emergent ignorance, in Buddhism we call it co-emergent ignorance, which is another way to say it is thinging yourself, turning into a thing in relationship to other things. As soon as I see those glasses, it's me in relationship to the glasses. As soon as I see this, then I hear this sound, it's me in relationship to the sound. As soon as I arise, then I'm bounded by all my tendencies and habits. So somehow, we have to enter what is called, in Buddhism, the 4th time. The 4th time is, I like to place it, is after the past has ended, but right before the present begins. There's a true doorway. The present is after we arise in relationship to things. And as soon as I exist, then I'm anxious. Because anything can happen, and I know everything's impermanent on some level. So I can die, other people can die, the situation can change. There's some anxiety there. But right before that, there's like a very thin line, like an opportunity that you can catch in which this sense of possibility and newness is much more accessible. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And how do we do that? Übung macht den Meister, like they say in Germany. Practice makes the master. We have to catch that. We have to come right to this moment and let go. We have to come right to this moment and let go. And we have to become comfortable or become accustomed to being right before we arise in relationship. Because as soon as I arise in relationship with the glasses, what do? I put them in one of my piles. I like the glasses, I don't like them, or I don't care about them.
And this is what you do when you're talking and suddenly you just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is a
Yeah,
very
it's like
interesting
an example.
way to do it, but it is an example instead of saying, okay, we're going to meditate now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, obviously we all have to do that if we're going to meditate, but it's like there's no plan when you suddenly just come into the now and start staring.
It's because we have to catch it. It's an elusive thing. Even though it's happening every single moment, we have this chance, right? Once you know about it, it's like being at a T-junction in a road. You do what you always do, or you do this other thing. And this, I think this, we can go back to the Odyssey movie, because I thought it was very interesting. He stops eating the lotus, and he gets back on track. He starts to have some memory, and he's like, okay. And the gods play a big role in that story. It's less in the movie, but in the traditional story, it's like they're always influencing him. So he has some insights. Who are the gods for us? They're our own intuition, right? Mostly they speak to us in that way. And then he gets back on track, so to speak. And he lands back in Ithaca, and he has his adventures, and he takes back. But at the end, what does he do? He abdicates. He doesn't get back on his throne. He gives it to his son, and he travels west forever. That's like he continues to do that. I think it's similar to what we're doing. When we know about this possibility, then our life changes its purpose, so to speak, or not maybe purpose, but its structure a little bit. From trying to get what we want, get rid of what we don't want, stabilize the situation. We may still need to do that, right? You have a daughter, and you gotta have a situation in which the daughter can thrive. You can't be like, all over the place. That'd be bad parenting. So it's not that our lives totally change in their outward manifestation necessarily, but our inward, I don't know if you want to call it a goal, our inward orientation shifts. And it shifts to catching this fourth time, I call it, the timeless aspect as frequently as we can, and sustaining that. Sustaining is not exactly the right word, but allowing it to continue. It's extremely easy to recognize. To come this moment and let go, it's quite easy to do, but it lasts about that long. And it doesn't have much power to change the course of our lives. We have to somehow find rest in that. Like surf that a little bit. We've been talking a little about surfing. Right? Riding a skateboard, surfing, bicycling, it's not a static thing. Right? You're adjusting. Doing a handstand. I've been practicing handstands for many years. I'm still terrible at it. I'm trying. But doing a handstand is it's an active thing. You're pushing this way, you're balancing that way, you're adjusting, right? In the same way, we have to find this instant, this possibility, this doorway, and then we have to be in that. And what is the thing we have to use? Tibetans call it drenpa, mindfulness. Mindfulness, not this mindfulness that is taught as in these self-help things. It's not exactly like that. It's kind of a noticing when your head goes back below the water, into the habits, or into the tendencies, into your karmic self, where you have no freedom and you feel the constriction in your heart, right? And we have to somehow, again, come up with our own methods of coming right back, pulling our head above water. At first, it's a big difference. You're like, either you're in it, like, or you're like totally out of it, right? But as you practice, you're more close to it, right? And that's why you have to have the two types of practice. You have to have formal practice where you're really doing that. Otherwise, you can't get stable. You can't notice it enough or become familiar enough to even practice it in your life. But you also have to practice it in your life. You have to ride that skateboard, right? It's very simple, but it's extremely hard. Because we're giving up what we are, right? We're giving up ourselves and all of our hopes and all of our wishes and all of our tendencies and all of our likes and dislikes, that's our personality, that's us. That's not easy to do. It's not even easy to want to do. Most people, if they receive this type of instruction, they are not interested. They're like, whoa, that's fucked up, right? I'm out of here. And I like meditation focusing on something. I want freedom. Well, I don't want what you're talking about. Because, of course, as Heidegger pointed out, real awareness also contains the awareness of impermanence. He said awareness of death. But it's awareness of of the temporariness of everything, the fragility of the situation. And that is there's a certain kind of discomfort in that, or fear in that. I don't know exactly what you call it. But that's also part of it.
That sounds so interesting, because like, I feel like it is scary. Some people are just like, don't talk like that. I think it's so fascinating to say, in 100 years, nobody's gonna know my name. Like, it's almost like a pressure release.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, but it's also like, I'm like, whoa, I don't matter.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh, the famous Vietnamese monk, he used to say something right along these lines. He's like, if you're really angry at someone, just imagine them in 300 years. Not even their bones, right? We have to use all the techniques we can. We have our toolbox that we use in our lives, right? We know how to send a check to the government if we have to. We know how to deal with our taxes. We know how to deal with our children. We know how to start the car or get something fixed. We have a box of tools for dealing with stuff, right? We need a new set of tools for dealing with this. Because this, as far as I can tell, this is the only thing to do, the only way. You don't have to call it Buddhism or meditation, it doesn't make any difference what you call it, but we have to catch this opportunity. Otherwise our lives are kind of pointless. You know, they're kind of ridiculous in a sense. Getting what I want, like, oh my God, like, how pathetic in a sense. You know? Especially when you consider that if it's 100 years, I'm very impressed, you know, before someone forgets my name.
I mean, yes.
It'd be like 15 minutes.
Come on, we have a daughter.
I met that guy one time. I can't remember anything about him. That's pretty much where it's at for most of us. You know? It's about that, I think. Again and again, we can only do it in this moment. In fact, there is only this moment. The past didn't exist before, and now it doesn't exist. It's not like that. I mean, the famous Indian saint Ramana Maharishi, he said something like, someone was asking about this. He's like, but this person was talking about karma or something, and said, the past creates the present, and then our reaction to the present creates the future. Is that how it is? And he said, no. He said, actually, there's only the present. Yesterday was the present to you when you experienced it, and tomorrow will also be the present to you when you experience it. Therefore, experience takes place only in the present, and beyond experience, nothing exists. Whoa, that makes my hair stand up. There is only now. Always been that way. But because of the way our minds work and the structure of our minds, and the fact that we have memories, then we really think that yesterday did exist. In fact, I got my haircut today, and Dimitri cuts my hair, and when I went in there, he said, I got a question for you about reincarnation. And I was like, okay, what is it? And he said, can you reincarnate in the past? And you know, we chatted about that and Buddhist perspective, whatever. But of course that's not possible, right? Because the past, not only does it not exist, it has never existed. There's only this moment. And this moment is extremely narrow.
But it existed.
Yeah.
You experienced
When you experienced it, right? As the present.
Yes,
quite interesting to
that's right,
think
that's
about.
Right, that's right.
Say it again.
It's as the present when you experienced it.
Yeah. And now we're experiencing this, and therefore the past has never existed. It's very interesting. Let your mind percolate it. I'm not trying to convince you of anything.
It makes sense. It never existed. It existed when you experienced it.
I'm with her totally, but you know, we could do this all day.
Yeah, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. It's very, these things are interesting philosophical perspectives to adopt and let go of and just consider, okay. And if they cause us to have a broader perspective, good. But the door out of suffering is this moment. We have to come to this moment. We have to figure out some way of coming to this moment and not doing what we have always done, which is grab on As soon as our minds grab on, whether they grab onto the coconut water, or they grab onto the friend, or they grab onto the memory, as soon as that happens, we arise. And we arise in our patterns, in our habits. And it's very constricted and not very pleasant. So we have to somehow figure out a way of not grabbing, at least not grabbing as hard. That takes a tremendous amount of paying attentionness, which is why meditation, seated meditation, is so important. Because if you don't do it, then you never develop that ability. It's like a strength, kind of. You have to be able to somehow come to this very instant, but not do what we always do, which is we do a little exercise, just because you guys haven't done it. I know you guys have done it a million times, but it still works, and so we're going to do this. I show you, and then we do it together. You're going to close your eyes. Your hands are going to be like this. You don't have to do it just yet. And then I'm going to go like this. And when you hear the sound, then you're going to put your hands down. It's not a race, and you're not trying to do it hard or something. You're just letting your hands fall. And when they touch your knees, don't do anything except open your eyes. So it looks like this. You're sitting here like this. You hear this? And when that happens, when you open your eyes, you find that you can't have any thoughts. You just write right now and just allow that and see how is that. Become a little bit familiar with that. So let's try it, okay? Hands are like this, eyes are closed. Don't try to meditate. Don't try to hold anything in mind or not have any thoughts. Just be relaxed. You can do it if you're online too. Just be here. Try it again, hands like this, eyes are closed, just relax. In that moment, there's no sorting, no doing. It's just like a pure experience of being right now. That's like the pure meditation state. It doesn't last very long. It lasts a couple seconds. And then you start to have thoughts and stuff. Just don't collapse around the thoughts. No problem to have thoughts. Your mind is a thought-making machine. It just generates thoughts continuously. That's fine. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to sort them into piles. You don't have to label them. You don't have to shoot them down. You don't have to do anything. Just be the space in which they arise. Totally open. Let's try one more time. Hands like this. Eyes are closed. Just relax. Notice how spacious you can be. There's room for your thoughts, there's room for your emotions, no problem. A different type of you. I know you know what I mean. The thing is, we have some. First, there's nothing, right? Total openness. that can't be sustained. Then a thought comes. And if you're paying attention, you don't collapse around it. It's okay. The thought just comes and then it just goes. Pretty cool. It's called self-liberation or self-arising self-liberation. And then so a thought comes that's kind of nice or interesting or terrible, and you can't help it. And your entire world just collapses only to that. If it's a nice thought, you feel good. If it's a bad thought, you feel terrible. But either way, you're tied to the back of that horse. And you're going wherever those thoughts are going. And where do they usually go? This way. Naturally. Naturally. Space. Spaciousness. Openness. In that, anything can happen. It's the mind of the beginner, right? Many options. Doesn't mean we don't have preferences. Doesn't mean we don't enjoy our lives. Not at all. But we're not as collapsy. Because as soon as we collapse, two things happen, right? First of all, there's nothing else. There's no space there. And secondly, we exist. We arise as the collapser. And as soon as we arise, then we're just one way, the way we always were. And there's something kind of like constricted about that. It's not true also. It's out of attunement. It's out of alignment with reality. We're not actually a thing. We're in this space in which everything occurs, including our own ideas of ourselves and personality traits and all that stuff. Once you know that, you don't have to get rid of your habits. Not in such an aggressive way. We think, oh, I just have to eliminate all my habits. That's impossible. And a crazy activity that would never occur. You realize there's part of you that never like that. It's already spacious. And knowing that, that is meditation. Making sense. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? It's quite simple, but very hard to do. Right? First, you have to want to do it. And you have to know, you have to learn how to do it, and you have to train, right? You have to practice. You have to practice noticing when you do collapse and then releasing again. You have to practice being totally free. Giving yourself permission to be free. To be in that state of not yetness. You have to give yourself permission to be afraid in that state, because there's some fear there. And the so-called ego is just the tendency to want to get back to the ground of holding, right? Because we're used to it. So we do it for short periods many times, not long periods of trying to sustain it. It doesn't work. Kind of like, if you've ever seen a flying fish, they come whipping out of the water, they go, 8-10 feet, then they come back in the water. That's how it has to be for us, right? Come out of the state of confusion into openness. It lasts a little while, and then you find you're distracted. As soon as you're distracted, it's no problem, because it's so easy to come out of it again. Oh yeah. You're just state of total freedom, total openness, spaciousness. Space cannot be injured, so you slowly, as you practice it more, your self-defense mechanisms and stuff, they calm down. Because how can space be hurt? I can punch space, but I can't hurt it. I can stab space, but I can't injure it. True nature is like space. You can call it consciousness. You do. You can call it awareness. It's fine. You can call it anything we want. Have our own name for it. We have to become familiar with it. It's not a foreign idea we need to adopt into our lives. It's just catching our own self before we fully form, before the baby of our confusion is born over and over every second. The Buddha said in one finger snap, there are 60 individual instants. So we get a lot of options, a lot of opportunities. We just are very good at not noticing them. Well, you know. once you know, you can train. Is this making sense a little bit? So we're done, I think. Crazy. At the end of your meditation session, there's really 3 parts. There's like giving rise to great joy and thinking, I'm going to do this for the good of everyone. And then there's the actual doing it a little bit. Whether you do it for 1 minute or 1 hour, doesn't matter. Just doing that a little bit. At the end, you create a certain kind of energy, or we call it merit, but kind of goodness that comes from this potential freedom. And if you don't do anything with it, if you just finish your session, get up, by the time you take 2 steps, it's completely gone. You can't even remember. So we say a little prayer, which we're going to use a prayer here. They're in there. But you don't have to say this prayer. All you need to do is think, whatever goodness has been created here, may everyone share in it. And that's like the closing. And it's kind of putting it in your new toolbox, putting that energy in there. And it's easier as you do it more to return to that and sustain that.
But you can say whatever you want to say. Not
Yeah,
whatever,
absolutely.
But you can be like,
Absolutely.
I-
You're just letting, it's like a balloon. You like, if you had your lungs full of helium and you blew up the balloon, this is like just letting go of the balloon. You're like sharing it with all beings, right?
sharing the goodness.
Sharing that excellence. So we're just going to sit here for a second in a state of openness, touch that again. And then we can say this. By this merit may all attain omniscience, having defeated the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara may I free all beings. Good. Thank you for being here online. See you next time.